going to give us the latest information regarding that. Mr. Maimane, have you guys spoken to any smaller parties here in the Bay regarding the coalition?
Good afternoon. As you know, we've spoken to all the parties, and as things stand at the moment, there are a number of undertakings that have taken place. I'll be able to make more formal announcements in a couple of days' time, but I think there's a deep sense where people have said, look, we need to bring change. Now the questions on the table are about how do we ensure that we accelerate service delivery, make sure we put people at the center of it all. So I think it's a positive step in the right direction.
Are you happy with how people have come in large numbers to vote for your party in the Bay?
It's a great privilege. The people of South Africa came and they spoke and they voted for change. In the most difficult of weather conditions, they came out, they voted. I'm glad they came out here today. It wasn't just any race. It was South Africans who were black, white, Indian and colored from all communities coming together to celebrate the South Africa we want, the South Africa we dream of. And I celebrate the fact that they came out in their numbers. And I wanted to say to them, thank you. Even for those who didn't vote for us. Actually, democracy is about the fact that whatever government is here, it must work for all the people. Because even if you didn't vote for the DA, the government still remains at your service. It's not about choosing a side. And so I'm glad they all came out today in their numbers.
The ANC, particularly here in the Nelson Mandela Bay, have indicated or have hinted that they are willing, to speak to other smaller parties to form a coalition. As the DA leadership, aren't you guys maybe a concern about that, or are you focusing on your own game?
Anybody can speak to anybody. There isn't a monopoly as to who wants to do what. The first big news is the fact that we're the biggest party here. The second big news is the fact that when we've been speaking to other different parties, we recognize the fact that the opportunities that present to us are very, very important. And we can't say to the people of South Africa, we must return what has been happening here in the city. Because we've seen that this city has underperformed. Now we've got to bring a government that will take the city in the right direction. So I think it's up to all. It's not the interest of politicians. It's in the interest of the citizens of the city.
It's fine. Just to speak about Tshwane, to be specific, are you maybe looking to form a coalition with EFF, even though you don't subscribe to the principles and sentiment in terms of the ideology?
Again, so long as we can agree on a program of action, it doesn't matter who. We are clear that when we spoke about change, we meant that we wouldn't work with the ANC. We also then said to the people, I'll only work in any coalition that says, firstly, can we deliver for the people? Is it a non-racial movement? Is it based on the rule of law? Will it create work for the people of that city? Will it ultimately make sure services are better improved and that there'll be no corruption? Those are conditions. So we've put that forward and said, let's go with that and let's talk to the respective political parties that are there. Because at the end of the day, I'm not desperate to get into government. I'm desperate to work for the people. So I'm not going to compromise everything and say, for the interest of just getting into government, we'll do whatever. It's not coalition and government at all costs. It's about the fact that you need to make sure you deliver for all the people.
So does that same apply to Johannesburg as well?
Absolutely. There are, in fact, in all reality, when you look at it today, even in Ekurhuleni, the ANC is below 50%. In Mogale City, the ANC is below 50%. There are now 26 hung councils all across the country. So there is a potential, many. The DA can be forming governments in 6 out of the 9 provinces. So this is a significant moment in the history of our country. And I think it's important for democracy, it's important for constitutionalism, that we recognize the will of the people and that change of government takes place through the ballot box. I think it's worth to be celebrated. And so when I look outside here, we've got to, in humility, say to the people of this country, look, it's a new era. How do we make sure democracy in fact works? And I'm calling upon all people in South Africa that yes, you may not have made a particular choice and you may not even agree with a particular choice, but at least one thing we should all agree on, that democracy has worked, that the results will be declared later on tonight, and then after that we must take South Africa in a prosperous nation and inclusive one. That is the dream we must work towards.
Just talk to us about your plans of transforming township of Port Elizabeth, particularly in Juli and KwaZakhele, in terms of providing recreational opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. In my travels here, even here, remember this city, and historically and under the ANC, it was the capital city for buckets. We must eradicate all those buckets. It cannot be that South Africa today, South Africans still use buckets as a form of sanitation. We must replace them right here in the city. Secondly, we must build proper infrastructure in those communities. You can recall many of them still don't have water. They don't have. We've got to put water, and then ultimately build the proper houses so that communities are prosperous.
Well, that was the DA leader, Mmusi Maimane, basically telling us about their plans going forward and how delighted it is about the fact that they've done exceptionally well in these local government elections. Well, that is what I have here now in Port Elizabeth. Back to you in the studio in Auckland Park.